Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. Well, I've been pretty busy off farm this week, so I haven't had time to get much done. But today I'm determined to do something, and that is to chop and drop around my walnut trees. I'm in a temperate climate and most of my chop and drop needs to be done during the wet and cool of winter. This is when decomposition happens on the forest floor. It's also the time of year when there is low light and more cloud cover, which also aids decomposition. During summer here and into autumn, it is usually hot and fairly dry. That is the time of year when it is most stressful and you need lots of branches and leaves on the trees to shade the ground and reduce evaporation from the soil. So timing of chop and drop is important. By getting this job done when the rains are starting for the year, or close to it, and there is more rainfall than evaporation, means your trees have plenty of time to regrow before the shading of this regrowth is needed in dry, hotter times. In a tropical climate, decomposition happens during the wet, humid summers, so that is the best time to get chop and drop done, again when rainfall exceeds evaporation. My rainy period lasts from around April until November and sometimes into December. However, the longer I leave it, the less regrowth there will be for summer protection. And here we are at the first of my walnut trees. This walnut tree here is right at the end of my bottom swale. Now this swale also has the macadamia trees, which we've seen recently, and it's also got a few apple trees. As you can see, I've got plenty of chop and drop still to do along here, and I'll get to that soon, I hope. But it's also the site where I filled in the swale blowout, and that was a couple of years ago. Recently we've had some rains and it actually filled up this swale, and I'm really pleased to show you that the repair job held. Just here in this little strip through here is where I repaired it, and a couple of years ago I sort of seeded it out with various plants, and I was a bit worried that it might get washed out with the first rains, but we really haven't had much in the way of rains. So it has grown lots of grass, and that's what held it. I think the water did actually trickle down over the top like a level sill spillway is supposed to do. So I'm pretty excited. You can sort of see where some of it has dipped in a bit, but this bit here has held perfectly. But for now, let's get back to the walnut. I've got 3 support trees next to this walnut tree. I've harvested some mulch from them last year, and that's what we're going to do today. Now you can see there's lots of grass around the base of this tree, and I'd like to change that, so we need to build the soil. So those branches are going to decompose on the soil surface and help build the soil. Now the leaves being green will also provide nitrogen to the tree. Now you might be wondering why I've planted these trees so close to this walnut tree, and the answer to that is more nitrogen. When this tree becomes huge and the soil has improved, I won't be needing these trees so close to it, so I'll chop them off at the base and they'll die. So at that point they're going to be releasing nitrogen into the soil. Tagesaceae trees are part of the legume family and are nitrogen fixing, which means they take nitrogen from the atmosphere, and there's organisms in the soil attached to the roots that grab the nitrogen and store it. So all of that nitrogen, when the tree dies, is released and should feed our walnut tree. I've just spotted the beautiful golden whistler there on the fence. This little bird lives down near the creek, and I often see it here when I'm moving the animals. They're fairly curious too. They'll often come and check me out and see what I'm doing, and then be on their way again. Okay, time to get this tree down and onto the ground to get this grass under control. And just like that, the chop part of the process is done. And now for the drop. Well, that's a pretty rough chop and drop, but the important thing is I've got those trees off and down onto the ground while it's still rainy and they've got a chance to decompose. And it also means these trees have got plenty of time to regroup and start to grow again for spring and summer. And in that way, when it regrows, all that biomass shades the soil and prevents evaporation during what can be a hot, dry summer. It gives plenty of light to this walnut coming into spring when it starts putting on its leaves. Leaving the first walnut tree, which is a Chandler variety walnut, we've got a different variety walnut, which is just down here, and this is a Cisco walnut tree. This walnut tree is actually the second I've had in this position. First year I planted a franquette and failed to water sufficiently to keep it going through a hot, dry summer. So it died, but this one has just about caught up with the first tree anyway, so it's doing really well. Now looking around the base of this tree, it's certainly not as challenged with grasses as the first tree. We can see the remains of the chop and drop, and there's more buttercup here, which really hasn't taken off as it usually does because we haven't had the rain like usual. But what this tree is challenged with is the canopy. Now walnuts really grow well in full sun, and in summer this tree has been quite shaded. So I want to get the full sun onto it, but I also want to continue building this soil too. So today's chop and drop is really going to benefit this tree. Now a couple of little shrubs just here, they're red currants, so I'll try and avoid them, but it won't be any biggie if we knock them down. We can get them growing again fairly readily. The other tree that I'm going to try and avoid is this little native shrub here. I think it's some variety of acacia, not too sure. Looks like it's going to be flowering soon. It isn't at the best angle, so it looks like it's been knocked over before, but I'll try and leave it when cutting down these Tagasasti trees. I'm going to start with this tree here and get all this biomass down so that the tree's not shaded come spring. Perfect. And I'll chop that up a bit right now to kind of get it out the way a little bit. I was going to take more of this tree down, but I think I'll just leave it for the moment. There's plenty to deal with here, and I'd rather get these, well, a lot of this tree and that tree, which are smaller trees, and just a bit of that one down. I'm kind of mindful the sun's about to go down and I've got my animal chores to get into, so I'll wrap this up as quick as I can. Okay, one more tree to attack. Now I'm just going to take off a big branch here, which will help give space to the walnut. Oh, lucky it didn't get you. Oh, it's getting windy. So that's the chop part. A lot more space and light to my walnut tree, and also plenty of biomass to chop up and improve the soil for this tree. Someone else come to see what I've been doing. Grey shrike thrush. Friendly little birds. So again, fairly rough, but that's all I've got time for at the moment. The main thing is it's down and I don't have to worry about my second walnut tree now. I do find it a challenge to get all my trees chopped and dropped during the wet season, but I do the best I can. My trees also perform different functions like winter flowering, tagasasti for my birds and bees. Always a challenge cutting these trees at the correct time of year. I feel a little bit bad now. These eastern spinebills just love the tagasasti flowers. I just love these little birds. They just make it all worthwhile. Well, I think my two walnut trees will be a lot happier now, and I'm happy because I've got a bit more chop and drop done while the rains are here and long before the dry of summer comes. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.